Welcome to NCSS Here for You. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously, and we strive to provide the highest quality services. According to Eric Erickson, a noted developmental psychologist, every person must pass through a series of 8 interrelated stages over the entire life cycle. NCSS provides a continuum of services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. NCSS's purpose is creating a stronger community, one person at a time. Now, let's get to today's show. I'm Joe Halko, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Each month on this program, we discuss a human services topic, and we do that with staff from one of our 3 direct services divisions. Our 3 service divisions are Behavioral Health Services, Children, Youth, and Family Services, and Developmental Services. And, on occasion, we have members from organizations that NCSS collaborates with throughout the year. This month's episode is titled Addressing Truancy. The Franklin Grand Isle Truancy Response Project is a coordinated community response to truancy that stretches across systems. The project involves families, schools, social service providers, plus government and judicial organizations in the resolution of issues affecting a child's school attendance. To discuss the subject of truancy in greater detail, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guest, Jamie Seeholzer, NCSS Truancy and Family Intervention Specialist. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Jamie, let's start with, what is truancy?
Truancy is essentially unexcused absenteeism in excess.
And what impact does truancy have on children?
Well, it has the obvious educational impact for academics, and I think a lot of people might not realize this, but it has a lot of social impact on children. They just aren't given the opportunities to interact with others in a formal kind of way.
And why is there community involvement in this issue?
I think the community, it's important for the entire community to be involved because, well, truancy is first of all, it's a huge issue right now, and it's affecting all types of social services because DCF has to get involved when children aren't there, being that it is a law that children go to school and receive education. And I just think kids end up having to receive more services when they aren't getting the things that they need from school.
And when we talk about the community being involved in everything, who gets involved? I know you said DCF is one organization that you work closely with, but I know that there's others as well that...
Yeah, actually, the Community Justice Center is where it all kind of rooted from. Mark Weinberg was the one that I think is the brain behind the whole process. So the Community Justice Center is involved, DCF, NCSS is the service provider for that. Schools, obviously, and it's both Franklin and Grand Isle County schools, so we're talking a lot of schools. Administrators for the supervisory unions, and we're really working to get the judicial system on board.
And just out of curiosity, do you see that when you look at the subject matter as a whole, are there particular points in time where the truancy is much more or greater, or is it just across the board all grades? I mean, are there peaks to certain times in a child's life when it's more prevalent?
I think, the focus that we were trying to get is early intervention with stuff like that. Unfortunately, although schools have to track all this stuff, I don't know how well it's been done, just because in the past programs like this, there weren't really accountability with programs like this. I think kids can kind of age out at 16, so parents can make the choice to not make them go to school, and it's no longer the law. So I think just catching them in the ages, grades between 1st and 8th grade is where it's going to be most effective to really show them the importance of education and really get them a strong foundation for continuing, hopefully, post-secondary.
And how are referrals made when it comes to this?
Well, each school kind of has their own protocol. So what schools have to do is record each absenteeism for each student. And typically the schools, what they have is 1 to 3 days of phone calls made home, 3 to 5, a letter sent home, 5 to 7, another letter and a meeting is set up, typically like an EST or just a meeting to kind of get the parents more aware and more involved. They make a plan. Essentially, they just keep making their personal efforts within the school system. Once it reaches 15 days, we've decided that that's when the truancy specialist should be consulted to go in. So the referrals have all the information that shows, like check marks that shows that the school has made all the efforts up until the 15th day. The referrals are then given to a school representative. So each supervisory union has a school representative, and then they will bring the case to what we have a TIP panel. So it's a truancy intervention panel, and we discuss the case as a panel and then decide whether the child is eligible to receive the services or not.
Now, in that particular stage, do you find, are there a significant number that aren't able to receive the services, or how does that?
Well, at this point, it's still kind of,
new.
Yeah, so we actually haven't had
enough
referrals right now.
Sure,
but there are, we do give priority to children that are 1st to 8th grade, so priority is given to them. We also give priority to children who aren't already involved with DCF or aren't receiving other services through NCSS, because theoretically that should be one of the things we can get back to their worker about and maybe have them addressed with the family, as they are already working with them in an ongoing way.
And when you say the reviewing of the referrals, I mean, you talk about this panel.
Yep.
So on the panel itself, how many different organizations are represented on that?
Within that panel, that's where you will get NCSS, theoretically a representative from each supervisory union, and then DCF is at the table.
I see. And when you talk about individuals becoming eligible for the services, are the schools, each one of the schools in our 2-county area, are they well aware of this program, that it's now enforced or at least in motion, or is there still a bit of a learning curve to go on there? How's that?
Well, I think there's quite a bit of a learning curve, and not because anybody's been doing a poor job of informing people, but I think programs like this have been brought up in the past, and for whatever reason they may not have worked out. So at this point schools may hear it but be, it might be a moot point for them, because they're like, oh yeah, we did that, it's it's been done, it doesn't work. So I think our goal here is really to show them that this is a real program. We have real service providers backing it, and we have real people that will be working with these families and hopefully, making a difference.
What types of things, so if I'm going to be, say an administrator who's skeptical, like you say, because they say, well, we've done that before, what is it that makes this approach different from maybe some of the approaches that they've seen in the past?
Well, we have a few different things that I think will be very helpful. One is we have a do-whatever-it-takes approach. So meaning I can really kind of design a program that'll work for each and individual child, which, in other programs we might not have that, because we might have certain parameters, but this is really anything that happens, we can do anything. So we could essentially get success pretty quickly to show administrators that, look, we really just need that first person to believe us and believe in us and have us provide the service and show that it works. We also have watershed mentoring. They have designated a few slots for us. So, when we combine that and we can give kids mentoring, we're providing kind of wrap services, essentially, with this whole program. I think to get administrators to really jump on things like this, just informing them about what's going on, and honestly, we just need that one person to just give us the case and have it be successful, because I think it will be with the approaches that we'll be taking.
So I guess it's like so many things, is you need to have a case that is a successful case that you can then show to individuals to say, yes, this does work. So basically what you're saying then is, let's just say for the sake of discussion we had 6 different cases going on, is you're saying as opposed to everybody fits into this little box here or this program that's kind of a canned program, you're saying that you would actually have 6 individual programs that are very different from one another because they're tailored to the specific individual and what you believe are their particular needs to get them over this hurdle. Is
Right.
that?
That's exactly it, yeah. So if one child needs me to go to school with them 3 days a week to really get comfortable with going, if that's an issue, that's one thing. If one child can't make it because the parents have no transportation and they don't have the value of education because they themselves felt failed by the system, well, I can really put my emphasis into the parents and show them the importance. So, you know, although we're getting a single child to school, we're really working with an entire family.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I know this is still a relatively new program, but you know, we talk about the various providers that are involved in trying to collectively help a young person. What about the parents? I mean, have you found that they're very receptive to trying new ideas and new strategies, or is that also difficult?
You know, again, I'm not really too familiar with that because I'm at the receiving end of the referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So the folks that have been receiving them within the school systems may have more to speak on that. I know that it was difficult in the beginning to get people to sign you know, consent forms just because they're not really aware of what it is, and I think it can be intimidating to hear all of these agencies coming together and discussing their case or their child. So yeah, I think I honestly think it shouldn't be an issue once people are more aware of what the actual program is, and you know, I'm the person that could go out and talk to that family prior to starting services to really get them to understand what it is and the importance of it.
You know, that I'm glad you brought up about a variety of organizations working together and what have you. I think it's a good point in the show to talk about the fact of confidentiality so that people don't think that, you know, you have a group of providers sitting around a table and that all of this information is going to be broadcast everywhere. That, you know, first and foremost, confidentiality is a key, and I know it is at NCSS as well as these other organizations, but if you could just speak to that so that people, and maybe parents who are watching, realize the fact that that information is kept only within those that are on the treatment team as opposed to anything larger.
Yeah, so, you know, if we bring a case to the table, which what we'd be doing now is bringing initials to the table. So if it's, you know, the initials are JG and you have no idea who JG is, you're just going to hear the information pertinent to the truancy situation. So you won't know who JG is. You'll just know that there is somebody with those initials that has this truancy you know, problem that exists, and you will hear kind of the history around that, and then as a panel, that's when we decide whether the child is eligible for services, at which point myself I would be getting that information so that I could contact the family if that's something they're willing to do. But prior to that, the families, you know, I think a lot of families get worried about just people knowing their business, and you know, I think anybody has that fear. So just knowing ahead of time that we don't know your names, we just know that you are a person that exists and these are the presenting issues ahead of time. So,
and that's why I think it's so important that people understand that ahead of time, so that if either you're approaching them or maybe if they're looking for some sort of solutions, but they go, I don't know that this really is a solution because I don't want this information everywhere, that they can rest assured that you know, confidentiality is at the core of everything that you do.
Right. And what parents, you know, I think is important for parents to know is if they refuse the truancy services, the protocol still continues as it has in the past. So if they're afraid of getting DCF involved or getting further involvement, what they need to be aware of is because going to school is the law. Once they reach that 25 days of being truant, a report is made to DCF anyway. So it would be really in their best interest and their child's best interest to access the services that we are offering to them.
Do people, I mean, do parents pretty much understand that early on? You know, when we talk about these points in times and these milestones of what's going to happen when they get to a certain number of days. Because, you know, it's, as you say it, you know, it's like a snowball going down a hill.
Right. Yeah.
And at every milestone, you know, it becomes more and more providers are going to get involved for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. I think parents know the process, but I think what's been happening in the past, and as I was saying before with teachers being like, yeah, okay, we'll do that, is it ended up, you know, it was stopped somewhere. So there was no program put in that had full-on follow-through with it. And I think it's easy for parents to be like, yeah, okay, sure, why don't you put it to the state's attorney, I'm sure, you know, because it really never went anywhere from there. But this program's here to actually hold people accountable for that.
Sure.
So I think it's like once, again, like I said before, once we have that successful case or that example case that shows that we are serious, people are just going to kind of think it's the same as it always has been, but it's not.
And I think that's important to get across, because like with any new program and something that's groundbreaking or different from what has been happening in the past, is people need to know and understand up front that this truly is different. And I guess you can't express that enough. Right. Whether it's to the child or to the parents or the teachers or whomever. How would you, if you could, how would you see a particular case going? And again, I realize that every individual is different, but let's just take a case of someone who might be in 6th grade and they've maxed out on, and they're part of the program, and how would you see the group trying to come together and help that individual and their family? Well,
so, you know, when we initially meet as a panel, we figure out what the needs are of the child based on what we know. So based on those things, we can kind of either accept the case, which we're talking about right now, or we send further recommendations for the school to try. Let's say we accept the case. It really comes to me at that point. Yeah. And I will really do whatever it takes. I would like to sit down with the family, get to know them, figure out what the complicating factors are for getting this child to school. Was it the family side or is it the child side? Like, is the family in good faith telling the child to go outside and get on the bus and they're just not making it? We don't know. So I think that's first and foremost, we want to figure out what is occurring for these absentees to be just way up there. Then it's really hard because I guess I could give an example. Let's say it is the child kind of dodging it. You know, we could put in some sort of token system so that he or she could get to school and be like, wow, you made it to school, great job. You don't have to stay the whole day, but you just made it in that first day, wow, good. And then have them make that decision, and then they would earn, you know, that social praise or the token or whatever is most motivating to them at the time. And we would eventually tailor that back, and so, you know, okay, you did it one day, can you show up 2 days next week? And if you show up 2 days, then you get a token. And we would really just take this approach at the pace of the child, and making sure that we're not pushing them too much because we want them to be successful. And I think the biggest key is to make sure that we set them up for success. Make sure that they have a good social, you know, group at school. Make sure that they feel comfortable and feel like that is a safe place to be. That's, you know, without knowing too much about each child, that's kind of the approach that I will be taking, is just setting a child up for success, or that family for success, to make sure that they know that we're there to help and not judge or, you know, make fun of them because they're not going to school, you know.
Now, I would think in today's world, I mean, somebody might be truant because they're being bullied. As an example. That would be the sole, in other words, they may enjoy school, they like the subject matter and what have you, but what is overarching to everything is the fact that in their eyes they're being bullied each and every day, which I can imagine would be very, very difficult for someone. Are there ways to try to counter that sort of a situation if that's at the core of
Right.
why somebody is being truant.
Well, I appreciate that you said in their eyes they're being bullied,
Mhm.
because I think bullying is such a a big thing right now, and schools are hyper vigilant about those situations, and I think they're really on top of making sure that kids are not being bullied. However, I know it still occurs, but a lot of times it could just be the perception that the child is being bullied. So he or she may feel like, well, Johnny doesn't talk to me, that therefore he hates me, and when I see him smiling, he's laughing at me. So we could really be talking more self-esteem things, or we could be talking
Sure.
something else. And the really advantageous part of me being with NCSS is if I do see other things going on or things that might need to be addressed, I can also refer out to other programs that we have. So, the child's truant, but really what it is something completely not related to that. That's where we will really assess that and go forward, trying to give them what they need.
And I think, you hit on something that I think is a very interesting aspect of NCSS, which is sometimes the initial contact might be because of a child, but in working with that individual, you may find that not only the child, but maybe the parents or a parent also need to receive some sorts of services. And I know that NCSS does a great job, and so do all the divisions, of more or less seamlessly trying to get people the particular help that they need in certain areas, even if it's another division.
Right, exactly.
That is housed at NCSS, and I know that's a little different than some organizations around the state, but I think it's important to note is that no matter how broad the services may need to be, that you and everybody else who's dealing with these individuals will try to make sure that they receive the services that they need, even if it means bringing in one of the other divisions. And you kind of do that without people really realizing that you cross from one division to another.
Yeah. And I think that's important for people to know as well, is NCSS does provide so much. I think we're a lot bigger than the community even realizes. So, if parents are like, well, I don't want this truancy person to come in because it's really because I feel like I have something going on within me that I don't know how to address, so I don't want that to be seen. Well, we can really go in there and really help them as well, or refer them out to somebody, or outpatient, or anything else that they feel like they need. So we could really address many things with one presenting problem.
Sure, absolutely. And as you said earlier, I think the best thing that NCSS does as an organization is, in none of the programs is it all cookie cutter. It is an individual plan of care for that particular situation and no one else's.
Right.
Which I think is important for people to understand as well.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I've often heard from people like, well, yeah, but that's not really for me, and well, we can make it for you. So you're right, NCSS does really well with that, and I think if people knew that more, we'd have less reluctance in programs like this, especially starting up new. So I think that's a good message to get across there.
Now, speaking of reluctance and what have you, is if there happens to be a school administrator or a teacher who's watching this episode, what is the one thing that you would like to share with them to relieve any concerns that they might have about getting involved in this program?
Well, it's not, your efforts are not lost. So the effort that will be put forward to make a referral, it's a real referral. It's going to a real person, and I will be, addressing that. But the thing that we do need to realize, or remember actually, is that it's a project. So it's kind of a pilot. So I am the only person serving both counties. I can serve 6 to 8 children at a time, up to 20, 25 a year, I think. So, I don't want people to get discouraged saying, well, I referred 30 kids and only 2 of them got in.
Sure.
Well, but those 2 that got in, let's focus on what we can do for them and what we have done for them. And we will also, it is a granted position, so we will be keeping track of the children that were referred, or the children that got referred but maybe didn't get the services that they wanted and stuff like that. So at the end of this grant, they can really review everything that has been done and hopefully move forward from there.
And I think you hit on another thing, which is, you know, it's always not the quantity of those you serve, it's really the quality. And that really falls under what NCSS stands for as well, as far as providing high quality services. So whether it's this project or it's any other program, that's certainly something that the organization strives to do for the residents of this two-county area.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't said to the viewers yet, who can they contact for more information about this project?
Well, obviously you could contact me because I am the truancy specialist, so I do have, you know, some good information that I could provide to people. But also like I said, each school has or each supervisory union has their representatives, and that might be important for you to kind of talk to your administrators and see who that person might be.
Now, if they want to contact you, how do they get a hold of you?
You could email me at jamie.seeholzer@ncss.org, ncssinc.org. I usually hand cards. I don't tell people. Or they can call me at 393-6585.
Okay,
and
what's
I
that
do
number
return
again?
people's calls and emails within 24 hours, so you won't be lost in the abyss of emails.
And what's the phone number again?
393-6585.
Okay. And so we've talked about teachers or administrators who might be watching. So now to the parent who may be sitting there and saying, boy, you know, my child's been struggling, I don't quite know how to go about it. What's the one thing that you'd like to leave them with as far as knowing that this is a terrific program that could help their child?
I would say, you know, use your school and really access the services that they have. So they might have interventions that they could use at the school level, so you don't get to that really, you know, you're not getting to that high level of absentees. So that would be my biggest advice. If it's something that is an excess and the parents just really need help and they access the school might, you know, find it in them to make the referral and discuss it with us. So I think it's always in the best interest to advocate for your child and for yourself, and just let people know what's going on and what you need.
And are there any other final thoughts that you'd like to leave the viewers with today?
This is a really great program, and it's going to work. We're going to do really well with it. So.
Well, I think it's important. You're right. It's important to note that it is a pilot program. It's a new program, and as with anything that's new, it needs to get some legs under it. And as you've said, getting some success stories. And certainly, it's a program that is different from the other ones that have preceded it. And hopefully, all those who need to get involved with it will understand that and give it a chance.
Right.
Because certainly, you know, addressing truancy. Or the issue itself has to be addressed, because certainly if you're doing nothing about it, then it's just going to continue. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, and we really want to, you know, this is our future. These children will be, hopefully, one day in charge and doing things for our community, and we want to make sure that they have a solid foundation to do so. And this will help that, I think.
I totally agree. So one more time, if they need to get a hold of you, Jamie, what's the number that they call?
393-6585.
Okay, that's great. Well, I want to thank my special guest, Jamie Seeholzer, for being on the show today and sharing her insights on how the Franklin Grand Isle Truancy Response Project addresses the truancy issue in our community. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. I'm Joe Halko, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You. This has been another episode of NCSS Here for You. We hope that you found today's discussion informative and educational. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. Thanks once again for tuning in this month. NCSS's purpose remains creating a stronger community, one person at a time.